Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. If you would be so kind as to take your seats, we're going to start this meeting and be expeditious with your time. We want to welcome you to this Beltline community meeting this afternoon. We know that you are all here to garner information, and that is why we are here to give it to you. I know that some of you may have found these door hangers on your doors as we were trying to get the word out as to this meeting on this afternoon. So obviously you are here because you're concerned about flooding issues in the Beltline, and we want to make sure that you understand all that's going on, and any questions that you may have, we are here to answer those questions. You'll see boards up against the wall. Members of the All-World staff will be working with you and to determine what areas you are from and what areas you have concern over. We want to welcome you once again. I'm Regina Harris-Jones with the Carter Malone Group on behalf of Deidre Malone and the Carter Malone Group staff. And also Mr. Don Cameron is going to be introducing the All-World staff. We want to make note, and you all have done such a beautiful job of this, of social distancing. We want to, as much as possible, keep our masks on. Although I know when you're talking, it gets a little muffled, but let's do the best that we can in keeping our masks on and social distancing. We want to welcome also this afternoon Mr. Mike Flowers with the Parks Division. He's the administrator. Would you raise your hand, please, sir? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Okay, raise your hand just a little bit higher. Thank you very much, Mr. Flowers. Mr. Robert Connett. He is the Director of Public Works. He's sitting here. Mr. Connect, would you raise your hand just a second, please? Thank you, sir. And Mr. Chris Harper, he's with Public Works, the Maintenance Division. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Now, Mr. John Cameron will come and he's going to introduce his all-world staff. We appreciate you coming this afternoon. There are goodies in bags that you can take with you, or you can pick them up now. There's water in there, which will be great for you. Thank you so much. Be sure and fill out all the paperwork, the survey forms. Leave them as you are going out of the door. We certainly would appreciate that. You all have a great evening. Ask any and all the questions that you want to. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Regina, for that introduction. We are excited to be here today. We're at the front end of a project that's been a long time coming. We're excited to have a great team to bring to this project, and I just want to take a minute and make you familiar with some of the team members. Some of them are here, some of them are with us virtually, but I myself, I'm John Cameron. I'm with All World Project Management, and we are the program managers for the city's stormwater program, which hopefully you'll be hearing a lot more about in coming weeks and months. I have with me today Ms. Kimber Bernard, who is in the room with us. Kimber, raise your hand. There we go. Also, Ms. Andrea Easton. Andrea, she's in the back. And with us online is Mr. Barrett Gatewood. These are all World Project Management employees who are working on the program. We also have, I believe virtually, Ms. Laura Adams with our partner, Black and Veatch. She's the project lead for this particular project, and working with her, very closely with her, is Ms. Caitlin Leffler, who is also with Black and Veatch. Doing the actual design work on the project, we have a great team, 3 consultants. This project is large enough that we have 3 separate consultants working on it. We have Mr. Justin Avent. Justin, if you could raise your hand, with Gresham Smith and Partners. We have Mr. Joshua Ballantyne with Brown and Caldwell. And we have Mr. Michael Rogers with Victor Arnold working with us. let's just take a minute and we'll look at the agenda. Those of you who are with us have a kind of printed copy of the agenda, but this is kind of a summary of what we'll be going over today. So the first question is, why stormwater management? What is stormwater management? And I'll explain a little bit about that and about All World's role. After that, we'll get into the actual Beltline project. Why are we bringing this project forward at this time, and what it involves? And then we'll get into the opportunities that this presents for the neighborhood and the businesses in the area. And then also we will break down and get into some more detail with the specific design groups who I just introduced, 3 design groups. We'll talk more specifically about their parts in the project. And then finally, what we'll do for the people here live with us, we'll break out into small discussion groups. For those of you joining us virtually, we would ask that you would submit any questions or comments via email, and we'll provide that email address at the end of the meeting. And also, you feel free to call All World Project Management. Again, we'll provide a phone number for that at the end of the meeting. So when we entered into the stormwater management project, the overall program, we decided the first thing we need to do is decide what the vision is for the program. And we actually put together a vision statement. And this is what the program is going to do is actually enhance the quality of life through sustainable, equitable, and innovative solutions for flood reduction and water quality improvements, which ultimately is going to support this Memphis as being a city of choice in which to live, learn, work, and play. So that's the overall goal for the program. The specific areas that we want to look at is to proactively reduce the risk of flooding in residences and businesses. We want to try to get ahead of the flooding and not be trying to respond to flooding, but try to address issues before they become problems. We are pursuing innovative solutions in funding and financing, the application of new technologies and best management practices that are evolving in the drainage and stormwater fields, and applying that to the designs that we'll be bringing forward. We also want to enhance the appeal and accessibility of waterways. This is part of the water quality as well as reducing the flood risk. We want to make, not drainage as an afterthought, but hopefully drainage as an enhancement to the neighborhood. And then finally, as I mentioned, financial sustainability and fiscal responsibility in all the programs that we bring forward. Those are kind of the overarching goals and how we're going to get there for the program. So some of you may be wondering, why are we talking about a Beltline project at this time? Well, over the years, there have been documented flooding issues within the neighborhood. We've also heard from the CN Railroad that there's flooding on their railroad tracks. In conjunction with those documented issues, there's a lot going on in the neighborhood. If you're aware, the fairgrounds is starting to which is going to include, among many other things, a major sports and entertainment complex, as well as some other improvements to the fairgrounds. You may or may not have heard of the Innovation Corridor. That's an effort by MATA to improve transit along the Union Avenue corridor with what's Tillman and extends all the way out to Germantown Parkway and beyond. But they're talking about extending that down to Flicker Street and tying in again, you'd be able to access it from Hollywood and from your neighborhood to the south. And then just recently, we've been in discussions or heard the city's in discussions for acquisition of the Coca-Cola property, which is just right adjacent to your neighborhood. So all these factors have kind of come together, along with a opportunity to look at an innovative financing solution. So something called environmental impact bonds, which is a new type of bonding which promises to reduce the cost of financing for the city for projects. And so the city wanted to try to implement one of these environmental impact bonds, and was going to be a little more specific about what the projects entail. Just kind of give an overview, and I'll let our consultants get into more detail. But there are several major parts to it. The first part being on the fairgrounds property. We are looking to try to hold back some of that water that comes off the fairgrounds and release that in a metered fashion so that the drainage system downstream of it doesn't get overwhelmed. The second major component is Hollywood Street itself. A lot of the drainage neighborhood comes off of the water that runs onto Hollywood Street. So the water that runs onto Hollywood Street ends up in the ditches and meter it out again in a manner that the storm drainage system downstream can handle. While we're doing that, we have an opportunity to address some issues for pedestrians and bicyclists in the neighborhood. So we're looking at improving sidewalks and potentially providing bicycle facilities, which both of those areas are on the city's long-range plan. As they develop their bus rapid transit system. So that we want to carry the project along Hollywood all the way north to Union Avenue so that we can provide that access to transit. The next major portion of it is we are planning some improvements in the neighborhood. These are all concepts at this point, but to better handle the flow coming off of Hollywood, particularly on the branch of the stream that is south of Midland, we're proposing some improvements to that channel to widen the channel and make that channel capable of holding more water. So we'll talk about that. With some green space there and potentially a trail running alongside the channel. And these are some of the things that we would like to hear back from the neighborhood on, what their feelings are, what they'd like to see included in that if we move forward with that. So we'll be discussing that this evening. Just to give you an idea where we're at, is we've just started discussing this project and entering the design process in May. We had the project kickoff. We've done some work you may have seen in the neighborhood, some survey crews and some other personnel looking at the channels, looking at the drainage infrastructure in the area. That took place during May and early part of June. As we move forward, we're starting to develop the concepts, the ideas that we want to bring forward for this project. One of the conditions of an environmental impact bond is you have to of the ideas of what we want to include in these projects. So that's the point we're at right now. We're developing the concept plan. We've just had our initial draft submittal from our consultants this last week. And in fact, this will probably be the first time that Director Connect has seen it and so be official. So we're just at the very beginning. These are ideas, and we're going to be refining this over the coming weeks and months. We do look forward to having by the middle of August or the 1st of September, at which time we'll approach our financing agents and see if we do qualify for the funding and get the funding in place. 2022, so January of 2022. At that point, we'll start final design, and there'll be some more contact with the neighborhood folks and interaction, and we'll again be looking for your input to come up with that final design of what these projects will look like. And then we anticipate having all that work completed by the end of calendar year 2022. And since we are working on the fairgrounds property around the Liberty Bowl, around the Coliseum, we look to break ground shortly after the Liberty Bowl game itself in calendar year 2023, and then construction will go through calendar year 2023, and if necessarily, early into 2024. So as I mentioned, we are just starting the engagement effort. This particular meeting is to inform the neighborhood and in the area of what's being planned and start the consultation process. We will continue this process as we get into final design. There may be a lull over the fall and into winter until we get approval and get funding and know that the project's moving forward the first of next year. But then we'll be reaching out again when we get to that point. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to our partner, Mr. Justin Avent, to talk a little bit about their part of the design and what elements they're going to be working on and some of the concepts that they've come up with. Justin.
Thank you, John. Good evening. Like John said, my name is Justin Avent. I'm a senior engineer with Gresham Smith. I'm going to be going over, giving a brief summary of our concept for our portions of the project. If you have any questions or want to talk in more depth, I'll be over here in the corner after the presentation. So come see me. I've got some boards that give a little more detail about the project so we can talk. So I'm going to start with South Hollywood Street. South Hollywood Street is currently 2 lanes in each direction with a turn lane. That's from Union to Central. Really, when you get south of Central, it transitions into a single lane in each direction. But it's really wide. When you look at the curb to curb distance, the distance is more like something you would see in a typical 4-lane road. But it is a 2-lane. It's a 2-lane road. Under this project, we did a traffic study and crash analysis for South Hollywood, and the results of the traffic study showed that given the volumes on South Hollywood, those volumes are low enough to where proposing. You can see these 2 images on the slide. They both really show the same thing. One is sort of an overview or plan view, and then one is a more 3-dimensional. But in both of those sort of pictures, the small one on the bottom is a section of the existing roadway, so you can see the sidewalks and the lanes on the west, the center turn lane, and the 2 travel lanes on the east. And then above that is the proposed section. So again, you can see the 2 sidewalks. There's a single travel lane going each direction and a center turn lane. The sidewalk on the west is a 10-foot wide multi-use path that's wide enough for bicyclists and walkers to both share that path. And then you see the area kind of between the roadway and the green space that John was mentioning earlier. That'll be the area that we can utilize green infrastructure, bioswale, during rain events, which will help manage the stormwater during rain events. I did want to mention the sidewalk on the east side, the urban park that Brian and Caldwell will talk about in a minute. It's on the south side of the track, on the east side of South Hollywood. So when talking about benefits, I kind of mentioned the pedestrian experience already, but obviously going through a single travel lane in each direction will risk on South Hollywood. And then we'll talk about the project we call the North Liberty Bowl. the North Liberty Bowl site is basically the parking lots, it's west of South Hollywood, and parking lots kind of between the Liberty Bowl and the Children's Museum of Memphis. That's kind of the area we're talking about. The concept shows underground stormwater detention under the parking lot that's north of Fuller. That project is to help reduce the flooding risk in the Beltline neighborhood. You can see this picture in the bottom right. So John talked about it a little bit already, but basically, you know, now when you get a rain event and when it rains, the water basically flows off of and discharges into an open channel on the east side of the railroad tracks into the Beltline neighborhood. So what this system will do is allow us to store a lot of that water and that runoff in these chamber systems, and then after the event passes, it'll release them at a slower rate so you can help mitigate your flooding. Now this is obviously a construction photo. That's not what it would look like, you know, after completion. After completion, you wouldn't see any of that. That's all going to be underground, and you just basically see the parking lot on top of it. Now, the current parking lot that's out there now it's 100% asphalt. There might be, I think there's one grass strip kind of between the sidewalk and Fuller Drive, but you're getting almost no infiltration whatsoever in that parking lot. So our concept shows adding some green infrastructure to that parking lot. That picture in the lower left there shows a typical bioswale. You cut in the curb that allows the rainwater, once it flows across the lot, to enter into the bioswale where you have some infiltration. You've got an infiltration trench, some infiltration there, and then there's a under drain system that carries it to the end of the drainage system. Kind of location of where this site is and its proximity to the Liberty Bowl, where you have, you know, tens of thousands of people going to Tiger games and other events at the Liberty Bowl, and also the proximity to the Children's Museum of Memphis. We really thought this was a great opportunity to help educate the public on, you know, the importance of stormwater infrastructure and the benefits of green infrastructure. And we can do that just with some educational signage placed at strategic points, at different points throughout the site. That picture in the top right shows something that's some permeable pavers behind it, and that sign just basically kind of demonstrates or shows how the permeable pavers work and what the benefits are. So that's a quick summary of those two projects. And right now, I think I'll turn it over to Michael Rogers of Fifth and Arnold.
Our project that we are working on is what we call Liberty Bow Southwest Detention. It could just as well be called Mid-South. But anyhow, what we are looking at is, as John alluded to earlier, from the Coliseum parking lot. Basically, there's a couple culverts across under the railroad tracks over to the Coca-Cola property and on across South Hollywood into the Beltline neighborhood. It's approximately 65 acres that drains to the railroad there, and currently no detention that I'm aware of up in that whole area. And as you know, most of it is developed. There's some areas that referred to that's being developed now has been recent with used to be Liberty Land and other uses over the years. But what we're looking at is north of the Coliseum, we're putting a chamber system, similar chamber system underground. What we're showing there on the parking lot layout is gray. The other thing we want to look at in there is on the surface is putting in porous pavement in the parking spaces. That allows infiltration through the porous pavement down into some filtered material and eventually into the detention system. But the whole point of what we wanted to do is capture all the drainage that comes down through there before it can get into the railroad right away where it's had historic flooding, and then there's flooding, of course, on downstream at Beltline. And then also there's some areas in there green. It's kind of hard to see on that drawing, but you know, if you have any questions about it, as Justin was talking about afterwards, they'll be right over here and we can talk a little more about it. But there's some bile retention areas we're putting in there that will allow some of those areas to drain through curb openings and come into an area where it's filtered through natural planting and filtered material. And it too, as it filters down, will be collected and put into the detention system. The next drawing, I don't know if we get, do we have another drawing, or is that the only one we have up on here? This is a picture it kind of shows, and that's just Justin was showing one with the blue type. The colors really don't mean anything. It's just different vendors, but that would be a system that'd be sitting down there with rock filter material and chambered out in those chambers, which, as he was saying, when you get finished, you will not see it. It'll be underground, but it'll be there doing it. It will provide a significant amount of volume capture and restricting the flows out to solve some of the flooding issues downstream, as well as giving you some water quality aspect as it filters out some of the pollutants that now flow on through and on out off the site. On the right is the picture of a little island area that's kind of a bioswale, kind of what we're talking about when we talk about a bioretention. This little area is natural green that lets drains come in and filtrate down through the soil and the material. And we will, you know, currently, as John was saying earlier, we're in the concept stage. We'll be getting in the final, and there could be changes. But currently, we're looking at, for instance, we're looking at greatly restrict the flow coming out, and it's going downstream. And so these are improvements that will certainly benefit the residents on downstream, and also in this area where there's now a lot of runoff that's just directly running off with no control. Both from a quantity standpoint and from a quality standpoint. And so we're excited about that. It'll be a great use to that. To Josh, we'll be talking about something that be a little more involved down in the Beltline.
Thanks, everyone. So I'm Josh Valentine with Brown and Caldwell. We are the neighborhood. So tonight I would like to just take a real quick minute to give you a high-level overview of the project, including naturalizing the channel that currently exists. With that park, you would get several amenities. That would include a new park, a playground, trail that connects the park and the playground, which will also connect to Hollywood Streetscapes project that Justin mentioned earlier, and then also the channel restoration itself. So as you may have gathered, Justin's conversations earlier, they're talking about a lot of what we would consider the upstream project, and what they're trying to do is capture this and equalize that flow during storm events to reduce the peak flow coming through specifically the Beltline channel with respect to the Fisher-Arnold project on the south, or what he referred to as the Coliseum project. So those particular, that particular basin is discharges directly into, and so with that, we're going to get a drastic reduction in peak flow coming into the channel where it's historically there's been quite a bit of flooding. Let's go to the next slide. So, however, there are still a few significant drainage areas in the vicinity of Coca-Cola, also on the South Hollywood Street area, that will not be captured by the basin, which leads us into the channel improvement project. So the Beltline channel will be improved substantially to return it back to its kind of natural state. So instead of a concrete structure, which you see right now with a chain link fence that kind of surrounds it, we want to widen that channel and to increase the storage capacity and add an additional level of flood protection. We also, and as you can see, this is kind of the after picture of what it could look like. What you see is a more naturalized stream with a lot of vegetation around that stream. You see a walking trail or a bike trail that could be more than double the storage capacity just in the channel itself in comparison to the existing channel. So this will help make this channel This will also increase kind of secondarily the water quality of the stream, and you'll see later, if you come back to the back corner, we have some, we have a rendering of what the concept plan looks like as of right now. You'll see some meandering of the stream, kind of putting it back into a natural state, and then we'll have a lot of native vegetation. Let's go to the next slide. So the Beltline Urban Park Project is designed to provide community enhancements and to develop kind of a sense of community for the neighborhood where you and your family are able to come and congregate and gather and enjoy it. The concept plan includes picnic tables and benches, educational signage, and then as mentioned earlier, a playground, a walking trail or a bike trail that connects the playground to the park, and then as mentioned earlier, to Hollywood Avenue. The project benefits include social benefits by providing a gathering place for the community, for children or others to have group activities. And just kind of imagine yourself on a Tigers football game, being able to tailgate at the park prior to kickoff of a football game. The health benefits include both physical and mental to the residents. Space or trail can be used to play or to exercise, and these types of parks are known to promote kind of a sense of well-being. And then finally, system for aquatic life while providing urban heat island reduction, where the green space can help reduce the temperature in the area. Back corner here with a rendering of the project and show you some concepts. I'll turn it back over to John.
Okay, thank you very much. This is John Cameron again. Just to kind of close out the formal presentation, we will break up here in the live group and have discussions as they have invited you over to talk to them and look at their plans, what they're proposing. But it is really exciting what we're proposing to do. Kimbra, who works with me, tells me often that you can only control what you can control. But I'm excited to say that as we're looking at these detention areas on the city property coming off the fairgrounds, we think we're going to be able to reduce the peak flow your storm. That's a significant improvement. We're also excited about the potential with the Coca-Cola properties as we move forward. That adds a whole nother dimension to these projects. We talked about the trails potentially through the neighborhood. Part of the Coca-Cola property, something that I've heard is so there could be an extension of that trail system all the way over to the fairgrounds. So a lot of exciting things going on. Please keep in touch. Yes, virtually. We do have the email address, or you can call us at the office. The office number is provided there, and we will certainly get back to you. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what your comments are and what you want to see built in your neighborhood, because it is, after all, your neighborhood. So thank you very much. And at this time, we will go to our live breakout.